Hi, my name is Andrew Taylor, and I'm creating this video to document a digital exhibit project I did in 2015 for the British Library Labs contest. For that contest, I completely reformatted the metadata for a project they'd first published digitally in 1999 called The Unveiling of Britain, which gave an early sense of how Britain was represented cartographically, and over the years from the ninth century through the 17th century. And this collection, I was not particularly happy with the exploration tool that they had created for that project, and therefore I imported their collection of maps to the Viewshare tool created by the Library of Congress. Now, Viewshare is no longer going to be working after March 20th, 2018, which is tomorrow. Therefore, I decided to do this short tour of the project and what it allowed people to do. I don't feel that there are any tools currently active that allow for the type of quick, dynamic exploration and semantically driven exploration of small digital exhibition sets. This one is 422 items. I would say Viewshare works very well for anything up to 1,000 items. Now, the Viewshare tool probably wasn't implemented as extensively as it could have been, but it was a great tool, and despite the fact that it's not completely, hasn't been kept up to date with the newer web technologies, it's still very powerful. So I was proud of how this collection worked out and wanted to describe it here. So one of the things that happens with exhibits is you try to show a lot of information in a small space. And Viewshare is very good at doing this. As you can see, the thumbnails are very quick, very easy to browse. If you see an image and you wanted to look at a larger version, it's very easy. You click on it, then to close that, you click out. So it's a browsing tool. Now, if you wanted to see the title of this particular slide given in the British Library metadata, that's the Latin title of the originally given, and there's also a full description which appears as a float over. Of course, it's not going to work on a device that doesn't support float overs. However, this amount of text would be very difficult to include in a smooth fashion while exploring. Now, the web page actually goes to the British Library's original collection for this particular map, and one of the reasons for that is because they have a Zoomify implementation that allows you to look at the image much larger than this and zoom in on different areas and read the text. So one of the powerful aspects of Viewshare is number one, that there are numerous views that you can use represented on the top bar to look at the collection. One, for instance, is a map. All the different items are based on that. So Portsmouth, of course, well, Isle of Wight we can see has these items that you can then click on and view. And sometimes it's hard to close because, as I said, it really hasn't been updated since 2014. I'm just going to reload that, and here it comes in again. So, but you can see that it does allow you to see how the different items are represented on the map. Also, the timeline is quite interesting for this collection because it's not evenly distributed over the period. There's only one item from 800 to 900, which we can look at, there's only one item from 800 to 900, but you see from the pre-modern era of the 16th century, that's really what Mr. Barber was seemed to be focused on with this collection. Once printing starts and engraving, for instance, you can see here also by material you can search the collection. So and what's quite interesting was they had material and technique, which I separated out into two different features. Obviously, engraving came along rather late, and so the earliest engraving represented in this collection is from 1500 and is quite simple, as you can see. Let's see, so it's by a Venetian actually, and there's the description, and it's also and you can click on the title. I'm sure that's not Pietro Coppo's title for it, but it's untitled, and it would also allow you to, if you wanted to do float overs for the different creators, you could do that as well. Another facet used for exploring the collection is extent of view. So going from small to large, local to international. So as you can see, there's quite a few international maps, mainly showing the British Isles. This is quite an interesting early one from the second millennium, beginning of the second millennium, and it's the Anglo-Saxon map of the world, which is anonymous, like most of the earlier maps. So that's quite interesting that you can view that. Then if you go to local, of course, that's going to show things like a castle, and if you go to region, that's going to be multi-county but within a country. So a classic example is Gerard Mercator's atlas, where it focuses on 3 different counties. So that's considered a region in the way that I arranged it. Whereas a county, of course, would be a single county as opposed to multiple. So that doesn't look like it. But regardless, another tool used for organizing it is international versus domestic. So international maps would be like maps of the British Isles, or a map containing a particular country. For instance, this is showing the whole of Scotland. So that would be considered an international map. It's not focusing on a specific region. But quite interesting is that if you look at the maps within different regions of the United Kingdom and Ireland and France, you can see that there's actually more of France in the areas where England used to control territory in France than there are of Scotland. So, for instance, there's only these 4 with Scottish maps within the country, and only 2 from Wales. Another interesting way to look at this is they actually allow pie charts, which are not elegant but quite powerful, showing that for the domestic maps, the vast majority of them are English, and that actually in Ireland being second, and the same being true for England being the most represented there as well. So another view that I wanted to emphasize, if I can turn this off, is if we go back to the gallery, you can actually look at the particular authors and see how they worked. Christopher Saxton did a particularly important atlas that is well represented in this collection, as you can see, and you can read the descriptions of these different maps, except apparently for this one, which I think that might be a newer. It just didn't have that metadata in the original collection, but many of these have the full description, and also the full title as well. If I was going to make a fully implemented version, I would probably also have the biography of Christopher Saxton come up in a float over as well. But this was a demo done for a competition rather than something that it was simply to show what was possible. Another interesting thing is we can see, as I said, the different types of materials used. As you can see, Christopher Saxton used paper rather than I'm sorry, vellum rather than vellum, and also the different techniques represented in the collection according to the metadata. Where it was actually offered. Many were not given, but you can kind of tell that this one is a painting, and that this one is probably uses is a drawing. So there are different ways to explore the project and understand it. The gazetteers was simply a piece of metadata I found interesting in the original data from the British Library, which I downloaded as XML and reformatted. And so they had the gazetteers where the different materials came from. And I have not explored the physical collection, so I'm not quite certain what the gazetteers represent, but there is no reason not to leave that metadata in. Now, it does support keyword search. So I'll search for Portland, which is, an interesting, particularly interesting type of map, mostly shoreline done by sailors, and a rather early map. And all these are related to the Portland chart tradition. So you can search by many different. So you can search by keyword, but you can also browse by date, by creator, by and by the area described. For instance, if we wanted to look at Ireland, international Ireland maps, these all are examples of that. So very quickly, we can see all the international Ireland maps. If we want to add to that or close that and then open up the domestic maps of Ireland, which are actually slightly more interesting, involving the invasion of Ulster, different things like that. You can search for, you can very, very quickly find all the Irish maps, and it's not like you have to think of it. You look over here and you say, oh, I wonder what's represented in France. Of course, it might be the north of France during the wars between when they're trying to hold on to northern France, areas like Normandy, and so you can see read about the descriptions, 1546, and so this is Henry VIII's period. So you can see that most of these French maps were from that period where from 1535 to 1546, and for some reason I can't think of the specific war, but it's not difficult to research that once you figured out the dates and you get information that you need to move forward with it. So that's this collection, and like I said, it can be very hard to explore a collection using conventional digital exhibit tools, and it's incredibly easy with this tool. And it's also easy to run into things, to explore and discover things that you did not know about previously, which is almost impossible with many standard tools, digital exhibit engines such as Omeka, which are fundamentally a linear thing. Now this will change, but I believe that Viewshare is way ahead of its time, as is evidenced by Blacklight copying some of its features, such as the amount of items on the left. And it's a shame it's not going to be working after tomorrow. So hope you enjoyed viewing this particular tour of this project, and I wish that you could explore it, but I will put the link in the bottom of my the YouTube that I load and hopefully it'll still be working tomorrow, and you can look at it for yourself. Thank you very much. Bye.